congratulations on the film. Can I just get you firstly to just outline the story of A Boy Called Sailboat for us?
The basic premise is that an unlikely source, being the small boy called Sailboat, finds what seems like an innocuous little instrument, a ukulele, called a small guitar throughout the film, and he is asked or requested by his very sick, if not dying, grandmother to write a song with it. She sees a bit more purpose in it than everyone else does, and he goes about writing the song, which brings a lot more to the town and the people that ultimately hear the song than you could have imagined would have happened had he just written it for his grandmother. But his purpose is to get it to her, and it's about the journey of him getting it to her through all that interest that builds and swirls around him having written this song.
There's also the effect that this song has on people.
On everyone who hears it. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. How would you describe the style of the film? How would you describe this film stylistically? I
think stylistically it's quite unique in the sense that I'm always very, very aware that the art form is storytelling. A lot of people talk about film and cinema, but the art form is storytelling, and film is really just a conduit, or what we capture in the sound and the image. And in that sense, this film is like every other film, a story, but it's very patient, and it's very. I was championing not only the human values that I thought were really important in the film, of family and simplicity and healing, but also the quality and value of silence. And so in that sense, it's a patient film that I wanted to feel like a fable, but I think those patient times are really poignant, and they're just as important as the beats that are active or driven by dialogue. So I think it's the style of the film is it's a colourful fable, but very aware and cognizant of silence and simplicity.
And a line that has come through a few times is magical realism. So it's got that. It's set in the real world, but it has that idea of is there magic around it? Which a lot of people see magic in everyday things.
I mean, it looks similar in style to something like Napoleon Dynamite,
right?
Or like the Royal Tenenbaums, or those sorts of films. Were you deliberately using those films as references? Had you seen those films? Do you admire the style of those films, especially visually? The way you obviously love composing shots, which we need to see more of.
I agree. And a lot of people might think that's a contrived thing to be very aware of composition and things, but to me that's part of storytelling. It's such a hard thing to have people on the exact same carriage as you when you're taking a journey of a story, and any device you can use that does that, I think are invaluable. And sometimes there are those fourth wall devices where we have obvious camera moves and things like that, which I didn't borrow from some of those other films or filmmakers, but I'm certainly aware of them. So I know, maybe subconsciously, I know how well Wes Anderson uses those devices and things like that. So I'm very aware of them. So there's no doubt they had an influence.
But also the way you were patient, you were saying before, being patient with the shots and not trying to trick an audience into the story's moving along because the shots are so quick, and the editing or whatever. It's just, we're saying, here's a scene. If we just put the camera on these people walk in, something happens and they walk out, that should hold. You know what I mean? Like and we, from the very beginning, when Cam was writing the script, he was saying, I just see this as a locked off shot, and maybe come in for one or two close-ups just at the end to accentuate a line or something. But he was saying, I don't want to try and get too clever or creative with the shots. It's more about the film and the story, telling the audience what's happening rather than trying to trick them into.
Yeah. You mentioned the fable-like feel of the story. Where did the germ of this idea come from?
Yeah, it came originally from my experience with other cultures. When I was a kid, I had a very strong relationship with some Greek families, which was so different from my Anglo family, and I fell in love with the idea of other cultures and the way they did things and experienced things. So originally it was a Greek boy in Brunswick who played a bunzuki, but then after travelling the world and knowing the qualities of the film that I was trying to embellish and champion, the Latino culture represented that better. So I transposed the story to a Latino family, and that was the germ of the film. That idea of that then spawned this story that I wanted to feel, in a sense, timeless. We don't sort of earmark any time or date in the film. There are very few things that would do so, maybe the CD or things like that. But I wanted it to feel like you could tell this or have this reveal itself to any generation of the next period of time. I want it to have a shelf life. I want it to be a story that feels like it can relate to any generation at any time.
I actually did notice that about halfway through, thinking, when is this set?
Yeah.
There's CD and you've got a radio station in there, but there's not a lot of, well, there weren't any
No.
mobile phones.
And that was
no
deliberate.
tweeting
And
or
the
anything
cars,
like
the car models are all quite, there's nothing's new.
and that was
Nothing
deliberate to
seems
keep
new.
it as
Yeah.
timeless
Yeah.
as possible.
Generic.
Now, I do have to ask you this question about why set it in another country,
Yeah.
in another culture,
Yeah.
basically. There is always, has been for too long now, this pressure, this argument. If you're an Australian filmmaker, you've got a story. Australian story, Australian voices, Australia, all the way. I think that argument now is part of the cultural cringe. I think Australian film, Australian cinema and Australian filmmakers are now beyond that point. We're now mature enough where we can relax and say whatever serves the story best. So just tell me if you guys felt pressure to set it locally.
You just summarised 5 years of our pre-production.
Yes.
In about 10 seconds.
Tell me.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, look, we did have quite a bit of pressure. We got, all the funding was Australian money, and it was all private investment. We approached funding bodies and explained to them that we wanted to make it over there because of what Cam was saying before, that's how he saw the best. It was written as a Latino culture, so we said that's how we want to make the film, because that will tell the story the best.
Yeah.
And we weren't going to compromise on that. And they sort of said, well, unfortunately, we can't be seen to support that so much, because and you know what, I kind of get it from their point of view. In a way, it frustrated me at the time, but
Yes.
it's taking it out of Australia.
Quite coincidentally, we were offered money if we were to transpose the story to an Indigenous boy. Well, they didn't hang it a specific carrot, but they said we'd be more inclined if it were a local story, say an Indigenous boy. And look, I love different cultures, but the culture that was specific, and we were custodians of a story. We can't compromise that, because then we're not doing our job, and the story can't be diluted. You're very lucky if you believe you've got a story that you want other people to invest in, and you have faith you can deliver a story that would do your vision proud. To then start diluting it before you've even started, I think that's sacrosanct to the art of storytelling. Don't compromise, and we didn't want to, and so we didn't.
And again, this is just to nail the point. You could have, if you wanted to, adjusted the story. You could have kept a Latino, but set it in Melbourne or set it in Sydney in the appropriate ethnic quadrant.
Yeah.
And you could have kept all that Latino cultural stuff, but in Australia, this was an option creatively that I think was available to you, and that probably would have satisfied, from what you're saying, the funding bodies. But yet, no, the story was the story.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. I think sometimes capitalism, in a sense, in some forms, corrupts art. And I'm just not willing to. We're so lucky in this country. It's not like we are scraping around for money. We have enough money to live. So it wasn't like we were relying on this to get out there to live. So in that sense, we were so fortunate that we could stick to our creative guns, because I didn't want to corrupt the story. To me, if I saw that vision in my head and I'm seeing the little tilted house in the desert, that tilted house needs to be in a desert. And it needs to have the appropriate foliage and fauna and flora to represent the locality that I think would best be this place for the story to evolve.
And the car salesman.
And the car salesman was that guy who just never quite gotten to where he wanted to be. He was halfway there. He was halfway to where he wanted to be, which just happened to be in the middle of the desert. And when he got that successful, he maybe moved to Vegas or somewhere.
Right.
But halfway there...
But just outside of Vegas.
Yeah.
not inside.
He just had his little spiel that he would practice, and for whatever coincidence, this boy kept coming out to see the boat, and with no one else about. I love the isolation, so that's his only opportunity to do it, and it's somewhat inappropriate, and yet he still delivers it to him.
Yeah, I actually was going to ask you about that. I think if I had one criticism of the film is why, in what could have been sold as a children's film, do you have this adult content in one particular part of the film and nowhere else? What was the reason for that?
The reason was I wanted him, the idea that he was delivering it to a child was because he would deliver it to anyone that would come. I didn't want him to change who he was, and he was this sort of, he was an adult guy, and you imagine he would be selling to cowboys and dudes that would be going through the desert. He didn't change himself in front of Sailboat, and I thought it was really important that he didn't, because I wanted him to be so genuine and rooted in who he was, and for Sailboat to accept him for that. But not only that, this kid's looking off out of the screen while he's saying it, but I wanted the end result of that scene to be that he was comfortable around Sailboat for whatever reason, and not only that, but Sailboat wasn't ignoring the whole time. He listened distinctly, because then he recites verbatim his favourite part of it, which happened to be the truck made of meat bit. I just wanted that. I wanted people to get a feeling, a sense that this young boy was older than his years, and there was a maturity to him that preceded his years. And he was always very aware of what was going on around him, and people were comfortable around him no matter how absurd that situation may be.
Do you think that might have cost you of selling this film as a children's film or as a film suitable to children?
Maybe. It may have, yeah.
Okay, having said that, the film is time-stamped 2017.
Yes.
Tell me where it's sold. I understand it's won. Firstly, tell me the awards that you won, and tell me where this film is sold, because I understand it's done quite well.
Yeah.
So tell me.
We did some festivals over in the States, first up, and we missed out just on some of the bigger ones, Cannes and Toronto.
They were actually
Sundance.
discussions with us.
They actually wrote to us personally, apologising for not being able to find a spot in the program, which is nice.
Yeah.
And this is as good as a mile, as we all know. But
even Toronto were asking about the actual cut, because we'd sent them a work in progress, and they were. I'd sent them one, and I ended up sending them another one. They came back and said, a lot of people have discussed this in the office. We've gone back and forth quite a lot. And it may have been that bone of contention, who knows.
Yeah.
But the point is, we missed those, but the ones we got in was second tier festivals and very good.
some good, really good ones.
Yeah.
Newport Beach Film Festival, which we won Best Directors Award.
Directors Award.
Prescott Film Festival, which is an audience award there. Best Director and Best Screenplay at Boston Film Festival. And then we came back and did a few in Australia, including Adelaide International Youth Film Festival.
And where is it sold?
The US, it's sold about half the territories around Australia. So we've got a sales agent around the world. A sales agent's based in LA, Premiere, and they've sold it to individual places. So HBO are currently screening it in the US, and it's being released over there. We put it in a couple of sort of regional cinemas. Yeah. But in terms of a theatrical release, Australia is the biggest theatrical release.
There are others, like I sold I think to 26 countries, and the airlines except for Qantas, which is disappointing. That's one I thought. But we get letters occasionally from India, and it was released in South Africa in cinemas. Some people had seen it in cinemas, some people had seen it online. Indonesia, they had cinema release there. UK. We get letters from Bulgaria and emails from, one of my favourite emails was from India, a gentleman who downloaded it illegally, and he said, I've never felt guilty about downloading a film illegally. I wanted to apologise, and I've told my friends to buy this film. Thank you very much. And it was lovely. I thought, I love his brash honesty.
Now, can you tell me how much the film cost?
It was less than $1 million. Yeah, under $1 million.
How?
It's very hard.
In fact, considerably less than $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm stunned, but I'm stunned again.
Yeah.
So many Australian filmmakers.
Well,
when they reveal to me, and I have to say how much it cost. How do you make a film for under $1 million in another country?
A lot of very generous filmmakers who help us out. And,
so a lot of favour bank stuff. A lot of people helping you out just to help you out.
For instance, Panavision in America, our DP had a relationship with them, and he said it's very hard to get deals with them, but I'm going to send the story because I really love the story. I think it's a unique story to one of the guys that sets up the lenses there, who has a lot of pull there, Dan Sasaki. And so we ended up getting basically probably $200,000 worth of camera. I think we paid for the insurance, $10,000. So we were afforded a lot of these deals that gave us a production value above what we spent, and so we were very fortunate. And it was lovely to have other people invest in the story and believe in it too. And so it was buoying for the production, and then we did get some great.
Okay, so how do you consider the film now in terms of it being a success? Is it already in the black? This is a producer question.
Yeah, we don't even know. That's the best bit.
No, it's not.
Okay.
We're still waiting on reports. They don't come as quickly as I would like them. I've been chasing them up. But no, it's not in the black yet. Okay. But I don't think it will probably for another couple of years. But,
right. So can you tell me now, just to pull back a bit, about the wider story about how a nice little Australian film like this fares in the current market. Now, you're going to be opening on Boxing Day in how many cinemas? Where are you showing? You at the Nova?
Nova is the exclusive Melbourne Metro cinema.
Okay.
So it's the only place you can see it in Melbourne.
Okay.
There are a couple of regional ones. Rosebud's screening it at the moment. Okay. Lawn is going to be screening it after Christmas.
So you've got a few cinemas around the place.
Yeah. Please and some up in Queensland and Adelaide. And, so
now, please be honest. I mean, the market is the market,
as
it is, and it is hard to get in there. Can you tell me how you consider the film as being treated or as being considered when you offer it?
Yes, our ideal would not have been to release it ourselves. We shopped around to quite a few distributors who all passed on it, and I think it's because I didn't hear this from them personally, but my feeling is that they couldn't place it. They couldn't say this is just a kids film or this is just an adult film, because it does actually span a big audience. Like we've had kids loving the film, we've had grandparents loving it. Grandparents take their kids to the film, on the holidays. And we've had people our age who come up to us with tears in their eyes afterwards, saying it really struck a chord for me. And sometimes for the reasons that we'd never expect. But having in terms of the distributors not being able to market it properly or whatever they couldn't see in it, they pass on it. So we've had to do it ourselves, which is a really steep learning curve.
In terms of the success of how we think it's gone, after doing research, it's the first independent film, Australian film that HBO's ever purchased. So we're very proud of that fact. They've got an incredible subscription base of 55 million. So we know it's getting to eyes. And I love that.
And in terms of that's what we see as a success.
Yeah.
We didn't make, if we were in this industry to make money, we're idiots, Anyone is. So we made the film for people to see and to make it how we wanted to make it.
You seem to be reaffirming the importance now of the streaming films, and that this is such a difference from even 10 years ago where you had the theatrical shot and maybe a DVD.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's it. The paradigm's changing completely.
Yeah.
And so originally we were offered a decent cinema release deal in the US, but as they were negotiating that, HBO came in. And so then our sales agent was in a dilemma whether to take the HBO, knowing that the growth would be slower, yet it would reach more people and it would assist the DVD afterwards and the streaming thereafter. So they made a decision to take less up front and hopefully make more then. So we're in the process now of just promoting it continually, continuing to promote it and seeing how it goes.
Getting JK Simmons, what difference did that make to getting the financing? Was that like a major deal?
Not so much to getting the financing.
No.
We had the financing already.
Okay.
Yeah, but certainly in the promotion, like it's absolutely in the promotion. And I'm certain with some of the deals that we were afforded throughout the world were no doubt heavily based on the fact that they could put his...
Okay. Now you emailed him cold.
Pretty much.
You found his email at the bottom of some discussion forum or whatever.
However, okay.
And the email got to him direct, and he kind of sort of acknowledged your cheekiness for contacting him directly, but then said he'll read the script on the red eye.
That's right.
Read it and said, yes, I'm in.
Called.
Right. But not only was he in,
yes,
he did it for, well, obviously he'd won an Academy Award, so he could have asked for double the budget of your film.
Easily.
But he asked for what? Scale?
Or less.
Less than...
Well, it was scale. Yeah, it was about scale. So
Okay. But then he donated the money
to Breast Cancer Australia.
Okay, to Breast Cancer Australia.
So Peter Mac, it wasn't.
So tell me, did this change your understanding of how Hollywood stars behave? Because that's a remarkable.
Yeah.
It's more than remarkable. It's one of the most beautiful gestures in the industry that I've ever heard of. Like, it really is. For independent filmmakers that really had done nothing and presented brashly an Oscar winner a script to which he agrees, after which we then have to negotiate the fee because we hadn't told him the budget or anything, to which he very easily accepts and then takes less than we had.
And then drove himself
and then drove out there to make it easy for us. And then donated half to Peter Mac. That's a human being that should be afforded all the gratitude and celebration in the world. He's a beautiful guy. Yeah.
And do you know what? Funny. Just sorry if I'm going to go on with this story, but he when he came out, when we told the crew that we had JK Simmons, everyone had heard a story about this Oscar winner, and someone said, "Oh, he hates wearing makeup. He won't wear makeup. He won't wear a lapel mic. He won't do." I'm like, "Oh God, this guy sounds like a real nightmare." But we need it. But when he first got out there, we did the Aussie thing. I went, "Right, mate, tell us about this, your makeup phobia." And he's like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." And it turned out he goes, "Oh, I know what but that was a job that I did, and they kept every 5 seconds I were coming and doing. And I just, one day I just said, can you stop it?" And now suddenly he hates makeup. That became it. And so, but in all these stories that we'd heard, because people only want to tell you the bad stories, because I heard this about him, I heard that about him. None of them were true, and he was the most beautiful human being. And then
just to
give so much, so generous, and so talented, and his performance was just spot on every single time.
Just a knockabout champion for independent film. His wife is a fantastic independent filmmaker who happened to be making a film at the same time. We're in numerous festivals and we're up for the same awards together, and we were back and forthing and we were having a laugh about it. And it's not far from the same genre.
In fact, he asked if he could use some of our crew in his wife's film.
And they did.
Yeah.
We had a really slick, fun crew, and we had a great time with him. And we've stayed in really good contact. We speak a few times a week. He's involved in the next one, and he's hopefully bringing some other people on board.
Okay, I'm one of the heads of these big film companies that you went to offering this film.
Yes.
So I'm going to come back to you and say, absolutely blown away by this film. We love it. We want to give you a major platform release across Australia over Christmas. We want this film to be the counter-programmer to Star Wars. Okay? That's how big we think this film can be, because it's a beautiful little film. But we do want you to either cut or rewrite that car salesman spiel so we can sell it to kids. We want you to refashion that part of the film and maybe take a look at the whole thing so that it is geared to, or can be geared to, a family audience. That's the one family chunk we didn't like, and we'd like you to change it or take it out. Now, if you do need to reshoot, we'll cover the cost of reshooting, but we do want you to change it in exchange for this distribution deal. What say you, director and producer?
What say I, as the writer? Absolutely, the words aren't important in that scene. It's not the words that are important. It's the sentiment, and I could absolutely rewrite that with the same sentiment and not convolute the story whatsoever.
We don't want any dirty stuff in there. We don't want any references to sex. We don't want any references.
Quite easily, I could use, and in its place, you could quite easily use really adult technical terms for cars that the boy would have nothing, that would know nothing about.
We don't want any kids asking their parents what are they talking about, and for the adult to get embarrassed.
Yes.
You understand what we're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, continue.
So you probably also want to change Nun's gusset as well.
No, that's not so bad.
That flew by very quickly.
Yes.
That is a funny line too.
Yeah.
But maybe we'd say just get some ADR in there, guys, and just that line as well. Let's deal with that as well, so that there's no complaints. We want a G.
Yeah. As protectors of the story, I would never change a story element that was integral to the beats or the
So
narrative.
you're not going to touch the structure.
No, absolutely never. Never.
The dialogue, you're quite happy with it.
That dialogue in particular, I could change. Yes, there's some that I would absolutely not. But that in particular that's malleable. That's
And let's get it straight. You are covering the cost of the reshoot, right?
If there's any reshoot,
the producer.
Yes, no, we will cover
producer.
that. Yes, we'll get JK out if we need to. We'll redo it for sure. There's no way to dub it, or no way to use a deep fake or something.
Fake.
We still know who owns those cars.
Okay, that's fine.
The reshoot's not the issue.
Okay.
No, I would. I'm like I said, I'm a storyteller. The words in particular in that scene aren't integral to the story. They're integral to the sentiment, and in that sense, I can keep the sentiment with other dialogue.
And you'd see it more as a creative challenge to do that.
Yeah, I would.